All right, welcome back to another SilmFilm script discussion for Season 3, Episode 6. It's amazing. Well, yes, it's Part 1, but it's not, we don't, that's not important yet. And Marie's here.
Hello.
And it's 2018.
Yes.
Oh, man. Of course, most of the people who would be watching any of the past like 2 or 3 episodes have been watching it in 2018 as well, but that's okay. Yeah, well, we've got our work cut out for us tonight. Not to mention, it's been a while since the hosts actually went through this, so our memories are a little bit foggy, I think, from what at least mine is a little bit foggy about what's supposed to happen and what some of the decisions that were made were. But that's going to have to be okay. Whatever changes we'll have to make them later. So isn't that awesome? Anyway, disorganization aside, oh, you'll notice that behind me, I'm still playing Rune Wars from earlier, where I've been actually recording a playthrough of this.
Okay.
Trying to branch out, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so things that need to happen in this episode. We need to have Green Elves. We need to have Green Elves.
Yes. So we have a frame for this episode, which involves young Estelle doing something relevant to winter and wolves and things. I guess we have to figure that out. We have Green Elves crossing the mountains into Beleriand, and they have already had contact with the dwarves, but this will be their first contact with the elves since they split off from the march back early in Season 2. With the Green Elves will be the Ents, who we last saw when we last saw the Green Elves, but now they get along and are friends, so we have to kind of develop the culture of the Ents a little bit on screen, because we just met them before. We didn't really learn anything about them. And therefore, we will immediately have conflict between the Ents and the dwarves, because Ents and dwarves have a pretty fundamental conflict with one another about life and trees and things. We also have some villains moving around in this episode, where Sauron's army of werewolves is going to have to take off from Angband. So it'll be prepared to attack the Havens in the next episode. And the spiders and Thurngwethel and Tilvilo being a spy and like all that kind of stuff is sort of happening in the background here, and we probably need some of it, but not all of it in this episode, and the rest of it in the next one. So we get to kind of make some decisions there. Fingal is trying to take on the role of being the leader in Beleriand who coordinates with the other leaders. So he already has an alliance with the King of Belagast, which hasn't been put to the test at all yet. And he is going to be developing a renewed friendship with the Green Elves. He's supposed to be in charge of Círdan out in the Havens, but Círdan's kind of doing his own thing and will continue to do so. And we'll see Círdan in this episode refuse the invitation to move to Menegroth for safety. So this episode is kind of about Fingal trying to tell everybody else what to do, and everyone else telling Fingal, no thanks, we're not interested, which is a little awkward when he's trying to coordinate the defense of Beleriand against these encroaching armies. Bulldogs, orcs have moved into Beleriand now. And yeah, so there's some building issues, and Fingal's probably pretty frustrated.
Okay.
But at least Menegroth is safe for now.
The Havens are not under attack yet.
No,
correct?
That'll be the next episode.
All right. But we do have contact between the elves and the eastern armies of Angband at this point?
Yes.
Like early contact?
Early contact. I'm pretty sure Bulldog has only gotten as far as the Gap of Maglor.
I meant western, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, the other side.
Yes.
But yes, I knew you meant Bulldog's army. So
Yeah.
oh
no, I didn't. I meant the
oh,
the opposite of Bolduc's army.
Yeah, no,
that is
there.
Bolduc's army is the eastern arm. I meant the western
Yes.
arm. Do we
Okay.
do we have like initial contact with?
No, because that's the Wolf army.
Yeah.
Which is just going to kind of storm the Havens next episode.
Okay.
So they can't have contact yet. However, there can be things happening in the West that are concerning because Círdan has to have a reason to be aware that Fingal's invitation is not just a courtesy, that this is a real danger approaching. So it's possible that the problem is Gothmog's orc army is way far up in the north.
Yes.
So there's really no reason
Sauron's army of werewolves
is
approaching from the north.
It is, but it's still pretty close to Angband at this point. Probably it's not.
Well, so you got to be like how is Bulldog's army moving faster though?
Because they left first.
Oh, that's true. Okay, all right. Fair.
Yeah. As far as I know, Sauron hasn't even left yet with his army, which is why they can't get very close. In this episode.
He was making spider contact.
Yes, he was with spiders before.
Okay.
So, Gothmog we keep leaving out of the storyline because he's way far up in the north, and
irrelevant.
Therefore, he's not that threatening to anyone in Beleriand. Yeah. However, Círdan does have a fleet.
Yeah.
So he could have sent people out much further afield than Fingal did. So Círdan could have news of further north if we needed him to.
Okay.
He could have seen fires on the shore.
Yeah, I do think that setting up, like reminding the audience that Gothmog is there is important because I think in the next couple of episodes we're going to have Noldor showing up.
Yeah.
In in that area, so we have to remind the audience that there's somebody waiting there for them.
Right. So I kind of feel like we're going to forget about Gothmog if we don't at least name drop him somehow in this episode, which either has to happen from Sauron's side or from Círdan's side, and we can decide how we want to.
Or we could just actually have a scene with Gothmog.
He could, except he's really just sitting there doing nothing, waiting for something to happen.
That's true.
Unless we can think of something for him to do. I mean,
yeah,
he could be killing orcs because he hates them so much. Like, there's things we could make him do.
Or he could like be reporting into Melkor.
He could. That's one of the things we're supposed to do in this episode is introduce the idea of what Morgoth's actually doing, because otherwise it looks like his entire plot for season 3 is I sit in my fortress and brood and think about how much I hate everything, and that's not terribly interesting
or untrue.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. So we do need him to be doing something, and the strong suggestion was that what he's supposed to be doing is creating winter. That he's kind of ushering in an ice age for Beleriand.
Yeah.
And that ties into our frame story. So we probably will need to show that in both places.
Okay. All
so
right.
We have a lot to work with, but no actual story.
Yeah. Who do we see as our protagonist in this episode? Who do we wind up settling on as the protagonist for episode 5?
Episode 5 was dwarf elf relationship to Bill Menegroth. So our focus was on
Celeborn.
Celeborn being the ambassador type for.
Right.
So for this one, we still have more ambassador jobs to do. Clearly. Enough that it's more than just Celeborn. We're going to need Beleg and Mablung along for this too. But I think Fingal needs to be the more central character because this all comes back to him.
Yes. Because he's making decisions. He's the one who's driving things.
I think so. He's not necessarily the one personally going out and meeting anybody, though. So he is acting through emissaries.
There's going to be a lot of... We're going to have to be careful. We have to be careful not to do a lot of repetition scenes where...
He tells somebody to do something and then they go do it.
Well, or he tells somebody to say something and then they go say it. And that person tells that person a thing, and then that person goes back and tells Fingal that thing. It's just, well,
that's awesome. I think it's easy enough to avoid it in that you have Fingal deliver his message, and then you just go to the next scene where the person is responding to the emissary, answering Fingal's. You know, you can make it.
Yeah.
We can, but you're right. There's the possibility of having overlapping conversations where you tell the audience something twice, and we don't want to do that.
Right.
And if Fingal is literally sitting in Menegroth for the entire episode, then how is he our protagonist?
He can't be.
Right. So the conflict that should draw his attention
would be
would be the Green Elves.
meeting with the Green Elves.
Yes.
Personally.
I think so as well.
He was friends with Denethor's father.
Lenway, yeah.
So there's a personal relationship there that we shouldn't. And besides, that's our main conflict anyways, is the negotiation, the three-way negotiation between the Sindar, the Green Elves, and the dwarves, all of whom have different agendas going on.
Yes, and the Ents.
Right. Well, the Ents essentially are part of the Green Elves' agenda.
Kind of, yes.
Like whatever the Ents are saying, I want this. The Green Elves are saying, we also want that.
Yes, it is true. That is true.
So
we also have to make sure we introduce the Green Elves culture a little bit here, because they are different than other elves and are going to get along with other elves because of their close relationship with the Ents.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that to make happen. But yeah, I'm okay with Fingal as protagonist.
Okay. Because
I think this is a test of his kingship before everything erupts into battles. Like, this is to see if he could unite Beleriand to defend it against Angband. And the answer to that question is, of course, no, he cannot. But he makes a good effort, and he accomplishes some things. Not everything, but some.
Yeah. Yeah. It's possible that if there were not a whole bunch of if it was just the army that Sauron throws south,
right?
If it was just that, it's possible Fingal might have been able to pull this off. If it was Fingal versus Sauron,
there was a chance, because Fingal's got Melian, and that's
right. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
But
Fingal's got Melian. He has himself. They have Ents.
Right. Like, there's some stuff happening that could be useful. Yeah. But yeah, with it being Morgoth, no, Fingal does not have a chance. And that's what should kind of come out of this, is that Beleriand's in a really tight spot. Like, at the end of the episode, we should know that Beleriand's kind of doomed.
Okay.
Not necessarily. I mean, like, we have to figure out where we want that knowledge to hit, but Fingal should at least be pretty worried that he's not going to pull this off.
Well, that only comes if he gets word of death and destruction happening further north.
Which might be a next episode kind of thing. I mean, yeah, we get to decide when we have that knowledge hit.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that means that at the end of this episode, Fingal comes out thinking, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, no problems. We got this."
I don't think we should end on such a hopeful note.
Well, that's the issue. That means that he has to know. He has to find out that there are things up, that things are, something is rotten in the state of Beleriand.
Right. Okay. So
and
that's
there's another issue with so the Eastern army out of Angband. There's a problem if they're the ones who first make contact with the elves, because Fingal in the story, the attack in the west happens first.
Yes.
Right? And then Fingal is unable to deal with that. All right. Comes back, re-equips, essentially, reorganizes.
And then defeats the orcs.
And then almost doesn't get to the Eastern army of orcs in time. So if he knew about the Eastern army of orcs first, it kind of suggests that he would deal with that first.
I see. Well, we we have to figure out how he gets the news in what order and everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like he has to get news of bad stuff happening in the West first.
Well, he should.
Remember,
Balrog's
the Orc army
first.
is slower moving. Even if they get started first, they're still slower moving.
Yes, but they've made it as far as the March of Mithras by now, the Mangler's Gap. So,
yeah,
and they've established
That's still a long way to go before.
It is, but it's close enough that Fingal could hear about it. Like, there's elves who are over there. Not that many.
Well, they don't have to be, and maybe none of them make it alive.
That's true. But
like we can show that happening, and we can show Balrog giving the command, leave none alive, and show none of them getting away.
Right. I mean, they're supposed to. The Orc army is supposed to be a little frustrated because they're not finding much.
Right.
But what they do find, they obliterate. That's probably fair. Okay, so how do we want to start? Do we want to deal with the frame first?
We should.
Okay.
All right. So we've got. We were dealing with winter, not dealing with, but we were illustrating that winter was coming early in the last episode.
Yes.
We were hearing wolf howling, but not drawing a lot of attention to it in the last episode.
Correct.
And they are on their way west. Why were they on their way west initially?
That is a good question.
Why did we say that the Dunedain decided to move west?
Well, there was. Okay, what was happening?
There had been threat of an orc attack on their camp, so it's possible they just packed up and moved west.
They did, like that was the initial reason, but I feel like there was something more to it. No, I think it was just
okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
The fact that the orcs have moved in means it's time to pick up and go.
Yeah.
Do things differently.
Yeah. Okay. So, at what point were they thinking that they would start heading for the Shire itself, or to the outskirts of the Shire? You know, like the Brelands.
I think that wasn't going to happen until after wolves showed up and they realized, oh, we have a real issue here. It's not just yeah. Because part of the issue is that the Dunedain don't exactly have established set dwellings at this point so much. They are fairly itinerant.
Right.
So picking up and moving camp is something they do more or less all the time.
Right.
Especially in the wintertime, I would think, where you want to get away from certain areas. You know, come down the mountains into the lower areas, maybe. I don't know. But so it could have been a seasonal move just as much as the orcs are attacking, we should go now issue. So the idea to go towards the Shire wouldn't be part of that until there's an attack.
Right, right. So when does that happen in our...
I'm going to have to check.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. But in the meantime... Hang on a second. I have to sneeze.
Bless you.
I'll just edit that out later. Tell you what. We've got about a minute left. Why don't we take a break real quick? And we'll check
you can edit it right there.
And yeah, and we'll check that out. If you are watching live, if you're watching live, hang in there. We'll be back in a minute. If you're watching on YouTube in the future, definitely like and share the videos if you like and want to share them. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe. Check out the links below. Get all the information on Mythgard, Signum, and the SilmFilm project itself. We'll be back in a minute.